Shirataka Ookami is a holy site in Nara Prefecture with an incredibly long history. However, in recent years, it has become more famous as a ghost spot. Now, this isn't especially uncommon for old abandoned shrines, but this one has a particularly interesting story behind it. These days, Shirataka Ookami is well known for the story of a 16-year-old girl who visited the abandoned shrine, and was then possessed by the spirit of an old woman in the air raid shelter to the rear. The tale spread through Nichan and claimed that, in the end, the spirit drove the girl crazy before she went missing. She was never seen again. It served as a warning not to visit the shrine in jest, and also a harsh reminder of the suffering many experienced during the war. Whether that particular story is true or not, the real history behind the shrine is just as fascinating and, at times, terrifying. Let's go back. Way back. In 1903, a girl by the name of Nakai Shigeno was born to a farming family in Nara. Her great aunt was a famous shrine maiden, and it appeared that little Shigeno had inherited her powers as well, because at the age of 8, a kami came to visit her, and this marked the beginning of her spiritual training. She joined her great aunt and undertook tutelage in becoming a shaman. At 19, Shigeno got married and gave birth to her eldest son and daughter. However, 3 years later she was involved in an accident with her daughter and lost sight in both her eyes. Shigeno refused to let this stop her, however, and she began training under waterfalls in the hopes that Kannon would restore her sight. There were tales that the son of an emperor had his sight restored when he washed in the waters of a waterfall, so she hoped its restorative powers would work for her as well. When she was 24, Shigeno was still undergoing training when a white kitsune appeared before her. This protective guardian went by the name Shirataka, and although blind, Shigeno claimed to see a bright light and colours moving before her. She continued her waterfall training and even gave birth to another daughter. However, 3 years later, tragedy struck again when Shigeno's husband died. At 31, Shigeno had a dream. She dreamt of a shrine in Osaka, and so she set out to find it. She described the shrine to her taxi driver, and together they looked for it, eventually coming across the Yasui and Tamahime shrines, which bordered each other. Shigeno explained everything that had led her there to the head priest, and he informed her that he would hand the currently empty Tamahime shrine over to her. Shigeno spent the next 2 years building Tamahime shrine's followers, bringing in geisha, restaurant owners, and other predominantly female professions. Many sought her advice, and during the war, she even dealt with politicians, bureaucrats, and CEOs. In 1939, Takahime Church, yes, church, was designated as a special shrine by the nationwide chain of Fushimi Inari shrines. And although followers dropped off after Japan's defeat, Shigeno continued to receive high praise as a shrine maiden who really could convey the words of the kami. Takahime Church then opened Shirataka Ookami on the same spot where Shigeno had undergone her waterfall training. It was dedicated to those suffering incurable illnesses and other such troubles, and Shigeno would converse with the kami to find a way to help those in pain. And, once again, her followers dramatically increased. One priest said of her, "Once you meet Nakai Shigeno, it becomes unnecessary to see another shrine maiden. There's nobody else like her." Shigeno lived until 1991, passing away at 89 years of age. Shirataka Ookami was left empty after her death and now sits abandoned in the forests of Yamato Koriyama City. The shrine has fallen into disrepair over the years and looks exactly like what you might expect from a shrine left abandoned for 40 years. Old rotting wood, rusty metal, and mossy stone. The shrine twists and turns through the mountainous forest towards a cave that was used as an air raid shelter during the war, and the infamous waterfall where Shigeno trained next to it. The path is littered with old shrine gates and religious statues. Left abandoned for decades, it's not hard to see how it came to be seen as a ghost spot. These days, you hear more about the spirits waiting to possess you in the cave than the great feats Shigeno undertook as a highly venerated shrine maiden. There are those undertaking efforts to remind people that Shirataka Ookami is still a holy site, but as more time passes and it falls further into disrepair, more and more people associate it with evil spirits instead. Which is unfortunate, because its long and important history deserves to be remembered. Not for ghosts, but for the good it did over the years to help those suffering. Being an abandoned shrine that was once dedicated to kitsune, it's said that if you enter Shirataka Ookami these days, you'll suffer the kitsune's curse. Kitsune possession is often to blame for people losing their minds, and perhaps the real reason why the 16-year-old girl who entered the caves then went mad. Or at least, so some people think. Whether that's true or not, Shirataka Ookami is undoubtedly a holy site, although it's also undeniable that these days it pulls double duty as a ghost spot as well. Which side you get to experience when you visit may depend on the whims of the spirits on that particular day. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.